So I am in downtown St. Louis, obviously, because in the background you can see easily the most iconic symbol of the Midwest, that is the St. Louis Arch. But we're not going to the St. Louis Arch today. Instead, we're going to another location that is very historic and probably easily overlooked, and that's this place right here. Wow, that is loud. That's this place right here, the Old Courthouse in St. Louis. Okay, so this place was built in, I think construction started in 1816 or 1817, and it's gone through several different changes and evolutions since then. Let me get over here where I can get a better look. It actually served as the model for the Capitol in Washington, D.C., and for a while was the tallest structure west of the Mississippi River. So the Old Courthouse is pretty well known for another reason, and that is for the trial of this guy right here, Dred Scott. Okay, so Dred Scott was a slave who was owned by an army surgeon named John Emerson. Emerson moved around quite a bit, so he lived in Missouri for a while, which was a slave state, and then moved to Illinois, which was a free state, and then to Wisconsin Territory, which was also free. But whenever they came back to Missouri, and after Emerson died, Dred Scott argued that since he had resided in a free state, then he should be a free man. The case went all the way to the Supreme Court in the landmark Dred Scott versus Sanford case, which was something that ended up pushing the U.S. closer to the Civil War. And this spot right here is where it all began. This is where Dred Scott's original trials took place before he went to the Supreme Court. So we're going to go inside and take a look at a few things inside the courthouse related to Dred Scott. So we just walked into this old historic building, and what is my daughter excited about? The gift shop. So here in the rotunda, they have kind of this progression of the courthouse. So you can see this is a thing showing plans for the courthouse. Was completed in 1828, and at the time, and for a long time after that, it was the tallest building in Missouri. Here's an 1840 view of the city. All right, so here's a picture of the construction of the dome. Kind of interesting. After this was built, they ended up using this as a model for the Capitol building in Washington, D.C. Okay, so here are some things kind of outlining the life of Dred Scott and his wife Harriet, as well as, of course, the Dred Scott case. Now, in the courtroom, it was brought to trial here in 1847, and they think it was in this room right here, and then was tried again in 1850. So this is Irene Emerson. This was the wife of John Emerson, whom Dred Scott and his wife got left to after Emerson died. And there's Roger Taney, who was the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court for the Scott versus Sanford case. And his majority opinion has largely been looked at in history as one of the worst decisions in Supreme Court history, rightfully so. A quick shout out to Jacob the Carpetbagger. Got an old Civil War era carpet bag here. Pretty cool. So, because of renovations that were made in 1855, the original courtroom where the Dred Scott case was tried no longer exists, but it probably looked a lot like this. We're in the upper floors now of the old courthouse. So the case might have been tried downstairs, it might have been up here. They're a little bit unsure. But it would have looked similar to this.
All right, so that was the Old Courthouse. Pretty cool place. I like places like this because it's a reminder that the U.S. hasn't always got it right. As a matter of fact, right here on these very courthouse steps, at one point, slaves were sold. So if you look back at U.S. history, there's some things that we've got wrong. We had slavery for a while. The Dred Scott case was horrible, but there are a lot of times whenever we got it right. As a matter of fact, the Dred Scott case ended up stimulating opposition that led to the 13th, the 14th, and the 15th Amendment. So the U.S. hasn't always been perfect. We're still not perfect, but this kind of stuff reminds me that, you know, we've always sought to try and form a more perfect union. So the Old Courthouse, very cool place. It's free. If you're in St. Louis, definitely come and check it out.
Good reminder. For the love, people, get off of your phone, watch where you're going.